This is the second review in a row where you guys are going to see me having just gotten out of the shower. I didn't want to do another just got out of the shower review, but today I went to a baseball game and I had to wash off the toxic air of ballpark smell, sweat, HGH, and any other potential performance enhancing substances. So yeah, you're going to see me with some goofily slicked back hair, but regardless, let's just get into the review. Ed Sheeran is here with a brand new album, the No.6 Collaborations Project. Ed Sheeran, I don't need to introduce him, he's one of the biggest pop stars on the planet right now, and he's also one of my personal favorite artists. And I know it's weird that I consider Ed one of my favorites because I feel like as a critic, it sometimes seems bizarre telling people that one of my favorite artists is someone who just makes innocuous pop music, but honestly I connect with it. I always say when it comes to my views on art or just things in life, a lot of times I can love them if they have that unexplainable something. Something where it just clicks with you to the point where you're going to enjoy it no matter how harshly it's criticized. And to me, Ed has that. I can't really explain what it is that makes me love his music, but at the end of the day, I do. Ed is coming off of a massive album cycle with Divide, an album that had two #1 charting singles, Shape of You, which was the #1 single of 2017 according to Billboard, and Perfect, which got a remix with Beyonce and was the #2 biggest single of 2018 according to Billboard. So Ed has been on fire, and now he is here with a brand new project. He's been teasing that he wanted to do something a little bit different than his other albums, and he wanted to release something in 2019, so he gave us this, which is a sequel to his 2011 EP, the No.5 Collaborations Project. That album, of course, the gimmick like this one is that every song was a collaboration, but at the time, Ed was not signed to a label and he wasn't as big as he is now, so most of the artists that were on it were people that, frankly, I couldn't really name today. But now, of course, Ed has grown, he's become bigger, and he's back with an album that features even bigger artists. Just from the singles alone, we've gotten collaborations with Justin Bieber, PnB Rock, Chance the Rapper, Khalid, Yeba, which isn't as big a one, but I thought I'd just mention it regardless, Chris Stapleton, Bruno Mars, and Travis Scott. And even beyond the singles, you've got Camila Cabello, Cardi B, Eminem, 50 Cent, Young Thug, LMA, H.E.R, Meek Mill, A Boogie with the Hoodie, Skrillex, the list just goes on and on and on. It's a 15-track album that's 50 minutes, which is a bit long for a pop-leaning album, but it's par for the course for Ed's music. But naturally, even if it was something a little different, I was excited to see where Ed went with this because he's one of my favorite artists, and seeing him collab with some other artists that I really loved was an idea I enjoyed. On paper, because in execution, this album is disappointing. It's not terrible, and I'm not about to sit here and hate on it as much of the internet is going to right now, but it is an album that just disappointed me and didn't do exactly what I was hoping it would. There are highlights on it, however, those highlights pretty much all land on the first half of the album. After about track 7, with the exception of one song, the album takes a big tumble afterwards in terms of quality. And I can't really totally blame that on Ed per se, because his heart was in the right place, and I do still think he's a very versatile artist after hearing a lot of his vocal performances throughout this record. But to me, I can almost tell who was doing this because they have a passion for music and care to make something great, and who was here because they felt the prospect of being on an Ed Sheeran album was gonna get them a hefty paycheck. Again, the album starts off great with Beautiful People featuring Khalid, which is a track that's very electronic and bouncy, and I like the way that Ed flows on it. The song has some great grooves, and the hook is pretty strong as well. Khalid's vocals also sound solid up against Ed's, and it's a pretty successful track. Much like South of the Border featuring Camila Cabello and Cardi B. The song is a little more Latin influence, and it's a track that I also enjoy. Some rather smooth electronic production, Ed's vocals are beautiful, Camila's melodies are catchy, and I love the way that she switches so naturally between her English and Spanish singing. Also, Cardi rides the beat super well, she fits right in, and her flows are very solid. And even though some people didn't really like it, I did enjoy the pre-release single Cross Me with Chance the Rapper and PnB Rock. I love how groovy and different the production feels compared to Ed's other music. PnB's vocals I know are just sampled from another song, but they fit nicely here. Ed's vocals are great, and I love Chance's typical fun, vibrant, over-the-top energy that he brings to the track. And I also enjoyed Take Me Back to London featuring Stormzy. Stormzy is someone that Ed previously collaborated with on the remix of Shape of You, and now he's back with a somewhat grime-influenced song that sees Ed sing-rapping and Stormzy bringing plenty of his typical energy. I love the dark production. I think that Ed and Stormzy both ride the beat very well. The hook is catchy as well on this one. It's pretty solid. And then we have Best Part of Me featuring Yeba, if I'm saying that name right, which feels a little more reminiscent of something Ed would typically make, like a Perfect, this, this, or how would you feel? And maybe I just kind of love it because I related to it a little harder than I should have, but I love the light feeling of it. The acoustic guitars are very relaxing, and Ed and Yeba's vocal interplay is very nice as well. At first I wasn't sure what to think of Yeba's vocals, but she really shines on the chorus of this one. When her and Ed come together on it, it sounds beautiful. And again, even though some people weren't as crazy about it, I did like the pre-release single I Don't Care featuring Justin Bieber. I know you guys have heard it a million times, but I actually like the bounciness of it. Ed's vocals are super catchy and I love his melodies. The hook easily gets stuck in your head, and Bieber sounds pretty nice on it too. And then Ed threw me for a really interesting stylistic loop with Antisocial featuring Travis Scott, a dark trap influenced track that I think his vocals fit pretty well against. And even if the chorus is a little repetitive and it took a minute to grow on me, I think it's pretty effective. Travis's verse gives me some of the great vibes that I've gotten from his previous projects. I love the haziness of the song, and I like that it doesn't go on too long or wear out its welcome, so it's honestly a pretty solid track. As I mentioned though, while I was enjoying everything I was hearing up until that point, right after Antisocial, the album mostly takes a dip. Like with the track Remember the Name featuring Eminem and 50 Cent. Again, a very surprising collaboration. I'm starting to wonder if Ed just has these artists on speed dial at this point. But the song again has some kind of bouncy production that throws back to something a little more old school from Eminem. Ed's sing rapping calls back to something like New Man or Don't. I like his performance, and while I wasn't too crazy about the hook at first, it did grow on me after a while. M's verse has some solid charisma and really funny lyrics that remind me of some of his older songs, but I'm honestly not totally in love with 50's verse. For some reason it just feels kind of out of place, and it just doesn't hit me on the same level as that of Ed's verse or Eminem's verse. And then we get into the track Feels with Young Thug and J Hus. I like the somewhat lighter feel of the song, and Ed's chorus is decently catchy, but he takes a bit more of a backseat on the song, and for once I'm not really crazy about a Young Thug verse. It just feels like it doesn't totally fit up against the smoother production of the song. And the same thing goes for J Hus. He's got a slower rapping style and a deeper voice that just kind of feels off on a song like this. I appreciate that Ed is taking a backseat and letting other artists run wild with a song, but in this case it doesn't sound all that captivating. The one song on the second half that I did actually enjoy was Put It All On Me featuring LMA. It reads to me as a clear pop radio concession, but that's not a bad thing, and I actually like it. I love the vocal interplay between Ed and Ella, and even though the faster paced beat felt a little weird to me at first, I got some nice emotional vibes and I enjoyed the somewhat subdued production of the song. After that point though, the rest of the album just takes a nosedive. Like on the track Nothing On You featuring Paulo Londra and Dave. Probably two of the lesser known names out of all the collaborations. It's another Latin pop-esque track that has some semi-dark production, but the production just doesn't feel like it hits hard. It's kind of watered down, and while I like Ed's vocals and his catchy hook, along with Paulo Londra's verse, Dave didn't do a whole lot for me on the song. I don't know what it is, but kind of like 50 Cent and J Hus, he just felt a little bit out of place. And overall, the song just was nothing all that special for me. And I was really disappointed by the track I Don't Want Your Money featuring H.E.R. Her star has been rising ever since she got nominated for Album of the Year at the Grammys, and it's cool to see her working with Ed on this album, but the song itself just doesn't really do a whole lot for me. I think Ed and H.E.R. both sound great, of course, but the track doesn't really do much interesting in regards to its instrumentals. There's a little bit of bounce and some bombast in the production, but there's no real hook or super amazing element that brings me in and makes me want to come back to the song. It's here, it means well, it doesn't do much else. And then we have the track 1,000 Nights featuring Meek Mill and A Boogie with the Hoodie. I've been using the word bouncy a lot, but I guess that's the best thing I can say to describe a lot of the production on this album, because this is another song that I would kind of classify as bouncy. It's a hip-hop leaning track that features once again smooth vocals from Ed, and Ed once again rides the beat very nicely on this song. Ed's an underrated rapper, I'll tell you that much right now. Meek's verse isn't that bad and has some decent energy, and I do think A Boogie with the Hoodie brings some good charisma, but I feel like the song just is missing something. There's nothing that really hooks me in, and while there's some good elements, it just feels like there's no real must-listen part of the song. Nothing that really grabs me and says, oh my god, Matt, you have to hear this Ed Sheeran, Meek Mill, and A Boogie with the Hoodie song. And then the last two songs on the album both could have been enjoyable, but to me were kind of held back. The song Way to Break My Heart featuring Skrillex, despite the electronic influence of the song, this actually sounds like something that Ed would have made on one of his previous albums. It's slightly more mellow, has some more emotional production and delicate vocals from Ed. I like his vocal melodies on the hook as well, but I think the song is just killed by the beat drop. It just sounds weird, it doesn't feel catchy or fitting with the song, and frankly I could have completely done without it. And then perhaps the most disappointing song on the album to me, even if it's far from being the worst, is Blow featuring Bruno Mars and Chris Stapleton, which after a lot of electronic songs and songs that I could describe as, once again, bouncy, this song takes a hard rock direction, which was really interesting. I didn't expect that at all. And I did like the pounding drums and harder guitars on the song. And the chorus of this one actually had some good potential. I think it's got a really catchy melody and it sounds great, but I feel like my problem is that there's some vocal inconsistency here. I feel like Chris Stapleton is the only one who sells the chorus for me, but his verse doesn't do a whole lot. Other way around for Bruno and Ed, I think they do great on their verses on the song, but they don't really sell the chorus. I don't know if it's because the instrumentals are processed too much on top of Bruno and Ed's vocals to the point where it feels like they have to fight with them, but I feel like Chris is the only one that really does it for me. It's an intriguing and kind of bold end to the album, but I feel like it's just not doing a whole lot. So overall, I can say that this album is unfortunately nowhere near the level of Ed's previous efforts. And I say that as someone who loves Ed's previous 3 albums, this one to me just doesn't come close. I didn't totally expect that it would because Ed is an artist that doesn't feature a lot of other artists on his albums. As far as I know, outside of remixes, Plus, Multiply, and Divide didn't have any features on them whatsoever. So for him to do a whole featured album, I'm sure there were going to be cracks in the road and I wasn't expecting that this would be on the level of Multiply or Divide or anything like that. But all in all, again, I'm very conflicted on what to think about this album. Again, I talked in the beginning of this review about the unexplainable something that certain art or general things in life can possess, but this album doesn't have that for me. Quite a few of the tracks here are kind of in one ear and out the other, and like I said, there are highlights, but to me, the highlights are on the first half of the album, and after that, things take a turn for the worse, outside of Put It All On Me, like I said. And it started to feel at some points like some of these collabs were done because they could be, not because they had to be. Like, Ed is someone that means well, and I can tell from his performances here that his heart was in the right place, and he continues to remind me here that he's a versatile artist that can handle a lot of different styles. But honestly, around that second half, the production starts to mesh together just a little bit, to the point where it almost feels like these are all just hopeful top 40 radio concessions. And as I said earlier in the review, it starts to feel like some of the artists here are merely here because the prospect of being on an Ed Sheeran album is going to earn them a hefty paycheck. So in general, I wouldn't say this is entirely Ed's fault that this album is disappointing, but I just didn't connect with this in the same way that I did with Plus, Multiply, and Divide. And I don't want to say that. I want to say that I enjoy the album, but it just doesn't do it for me. I mean, I guess not every artist can have a perfect discography, and not every artist, no matter how much you love them, is going to make incredible albums all the time, but it's just a shame this wasn't better. My favorite tracks from it were Beautiful People, South of the Border, Cross Me, Take Me Back to London, Best Part of Me, I Don't Care, Antisocial, and Put It All On Me. And my least favorite tracks were Feels and I Don't Want Your Money. So overall, on my rating scale, it pains me to say this and I don't want to, but as a critic, I've got to be honest and tell it how I feel. Ed Sheeran's No.6 Collaborations Project is gonna get an okay from me. Again, I don't dislike it and I feel like it had potential, but ultimately it's just not all there. Now, does this mean that I think any less of Ed or that I'm less excited about a new album from Ed? No. I'm sure when he goes back to make his next album, I'm going to enjoy it, regardless of whether he tries something different or goes back into his comfort zone. But to me, this album just wasn't all that captivating. But that's just my opinion on it, and I'm kind of nervous to see what the comment section of this video is going to be like, because I know I always ask you guys to keep it civil and have some fun in the comment section, but so far it seems like this album's been really polarizing. Naturally, fans of Ed are really enjoying it, but it seems like a lot of people on some sites that I've been seeing are ready to christen this thing as the worst album of the year, or something close to that. So I'm a little nervous to see what the comment section of this video is going to be like, but regardless, what did you guys think of the album? Did you find something in it that I and several other listeners couldn't? Did you hate this thing as much as the rest of the internet seems like it's doing? Did you land in the middle like I did? And also, I guess I'll ask this just because I want to ask more questions than just what did you think of the album. What is your personal favorite Ed Sheeran album? And where do you think he should go with his next full-length record? I think I want to do that and start leaving some questions open for you guys to answer in the comments just so we could start some nice conversations. albums. So yeah, beyond what you thought of the album, what is your favorite Ed Sheeran album, and where do you think he should go with his next full-length record? Leave all those thoughts down in the comment section below. Let's keep it civil and have some fun like we like to do. If you want to hit like and subscribe, I appreciate it, but you guys know I'm no beggar, so you don't have to worry too hard about it. And as for what I'm reviewing next, I don't totally know, but hopefully Chance the Rapper will drop his upcoming album very soon. He did say this month, and you know, time's ticking, so hopefully it'll be soon. Either way, stay tuned for it. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.